Hey, my name's Tasha, and I'm a graduate of the Mary Benson House. I wanted to tell you a little bit about my experience before you make a decision that could greatly affect your life. So, about 8 years ago, I was in treatment. I was at a detox facility, and I was trying to figure out where I wanted to go and where I could go and be with my daughter. She was 3 at the time. And I knew that I didn't want to do it without her, and that she needed to be a part of my recovery journey, and that there had to be some place that would take both of us. So Mary Benson House came up on the list of potentials, and I called them. And I remember being really nervous because, it was going to be in a house with a bunch of other women and their children. And I remember thinking, like, gosh, that's got to be a lot of personalities. And, what am I going to do with having to be around a bunch of other children that aren't my own while I'm trying to figure out how to, be a sober mother and, also focus on my recovery. And I was nervous about being around a lot of other women because I didn't have a really great history with women in my life. And I remember that being something that was on my mind when I decided to go. And I remember not really knowing what it was going to look like to, show up in the way that they were asking me, as far as going to groups and doing therapy and doing outside therapy and doing parenting classes. And it seemed like a lot when I was filling that intake packet out. But I knew that I needed to do something different. And I knew I didn't want to go home. It wasn't a good environment, and I didn't want to go back to living by myself. And I didn't really want to take the option of going back with my mother. My mom was a support, and so was my dad, but I wanted to do this by myself to, a degree without my family stepping in again and being under their roof. I wanted to show them that I could do this. So when I was accepted to the Mary Benson House, I went straight from treatment, the rehab, to Mary Benson. And I remember pulling up and I was like, wow, it's just like a regular house. And that really settled down some of my nerves because I wasn't going to another facility. It looked inviting. It looked like any other house in that neighborhood. There wasn't like a big tall fence or, security cameras all over the place. It just looked like a house. And I went in there and met my roommates and, kind of started this new routine. And coming out of active addiction, I wasn't really used to a daily routine. But man, I am so glad that I got that experience there. Being able to be accountable and have that stability in my life, to show up for my responsibilities, is something that now is still something I value. And I don't know if my life would look the same if I hadn't learned that skill at the Mary Benson House. So let's see. Highlights of being there, I would say, the best thing that I learned was to kind of push past my comfort zone on what I was willing to do. Because I had tried recovery before, I had even gone to other residential places, but I wasn't really bought into doing everything different, anything that I could, that they were suggesting, and, kind of really put myself out there. I remember going to treatment and just really digging deeper than I ever had before. They connected us with the Women's Recovery Center, and I'd never done anything that was just for women before. And I felt so much more comfortable going deeper. And I healed, I think, more than I thought that I could. And so that was life-changing for me, to let go some of that stuff that I had been carrying around that had contributed to me going back out over and over again. I learned the skill of healthy communication. And I remember when I left the Mary Benson house that was the thing that I thought that was the most valuable at the time, because living with, 6 other women and their children, you have to communicate. And I think that communication is such a huge part of recovery. And being able to stand up for myself and advocate for myself. And boy, did I find my voice when I lived there, and, just felt really empowered to be able to stand up for myself and my beliefs and other people's, beliefs, and be that person that wasn't scared to say what they thought and ask for what they needed in a healthy way. And so challenges of living there, because, it's not, every day's not going to be perfect. Early recovery is rough, and we're raw, and there's a lot of emotions and fear and doubt and anger that we're sifting through and processing. And then you add other people's, going through the same process with you. But I think personally, part of my challenges were that even though I was, still not super strong, I was maybe stronger than I thought. And I challenged a lot of the rules, and I ended up getting in trouble a lot. And when I say get in trouble, I mean, like, I had natural consequences. I think I got put on restriction several times, and it was just because I was being stubborn. But, and I didn't really understand why what I was doing wasn't appropriate at the time. But, like, looking back, like, I did learn some lessons from, being called out, essentially, on some of my behaviors that I was still acting out on in early recovery. And, it wasn't, I remember thinking one time when I was on restriction, like I couldn't take a pass or something silly, and I was really mad at my counselor, and I didn't want to talk to her, and I thought about, like, I could just leave. I mean, nobody's making me stay here, and I put myself here, and, kind of like, I'll show them. And then I remembered why I came, and that, like, yeah, nobody made me stay, but I wanted to be there, and I had to, like, reconnect with why I wanted to be there, and, what would I be going to if I did leave. And, so something that I learned with that kind of thinking and that challenge is, am I running towards something or running away from something? And, I decided to stay, and I'm really glad that I did, because it is something that I'm still very proud of, a huge accomplishment in my life. Skills that I learned there range from, being a healthy, sober parent to daily living skills like, budgeting for groceries and cooking and, communication if I can't attend an appointment, or just making sure that I make it to an appointment and being early. And those are things that I still, really cherish today. Like, I value those skills. Like, I thrive on those skills today, and I really contribute those skills to my success in my recovery. The most useful tip I would say to give to you that is thinking about going to the Mary Benson house is to ask yourself, why not? Why not give this a try? Is it different than what you've tried before? And I want to just tell you that you're worth that try. You're worth finding out if this could be the last time you ever have to go through what you're going through. It is worth putting yourself out there and being vulnerable to other women that are pure in their intentions to help you. And that is something I can say about the staff at Mary Benson House, is that they were stern, but they were there for me, and they showed me compassion and kindness and forgiveness when I wasn't perfect. And I built relationships with other women in recovery, and that really set me out on this platform of being able to do that when I left there. And something I can say about the Mary Benson House is that it's been almost 8 years since I came there, and I am still in recovery today, and I still use them as a resource, and I still believe in what they're doing there, and I believe that they're still there for you and other people that choose to go there for a reason, because what they're doing works, and they really do care. They are really rooting for us and our children, and will do whatever it takes to make sure that you feel supported in that process. So why not you? Why not this time? It can be different, and your life can change more than your imagination can probably handle at this point, because my life is so different than what I ever thought it could be. And I definitely contribute that, my beginning being so solid because of the Mary Benson House. So think about it. And if not, I'm sure you're still capable of this. No matter what, you're capable of recovery. But my story, I can definitely shout out to the Mary Benson House. They're amazing. And I hope you're able to experience something similar to me.